You look through the gloom for the Carthaginian menace. Your velites, javelin and shield in hand, Gladi at your side. Your mission is to hide the movement of the army behind you and engage the enemy skirmishers, the Balearic mercenaries. But you don't see them yet. You can only wait for what has been called the silent death. And there it is! A pain in your shoulder like white hot fire, a lead sling bullet. You never saw it coming. It blitzed through your armor and buried deep in your shoulder. You must get back to the lines. The physician is beyond have the only tool that can remove the shrapnel from your body before it can fester. But you won't make it. There are more coming. I'm AP Townley, and this is Roleplay Culture. What I just described for you was what a Roman legionnaire might have experienced when coming up against a troop of experienced slingers. During the Second Punic War, the Carthaginian general Hannibal led his mercenary army over the Alps to surprise attack the Romans on their own ground. Amongst his many mercenary units were the Balearic slingers. Hailing from a set of islands in the south of Spain known as the Balearic Isles, these men spent their youth mostly herding sheep and other livestock. From the moment they could walk, they were taught to use the sling to kill pests and defend their livestock. They became so accurate with those slings, it was said that they could target and hit directly in front of a wandering animal, essentially hurting it from afar. And when Hannibal passed through Spain on his conquest, many of these peoples joined his army as slingers and absolutely terrified the Romans. But the Romans knew how to learn from their mistakes, and more importantly, how to steal effective tactics from their opponents. And Hannibal was ever the most painful of teachers. Future Roman doctrine would have every legionnaire trained and equipped with a sling. They say imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and they should be flattered. So flattered that the Romans invented a medical instrument specifically to remove the bullets of lead. So let's make a sling. Let's make a new weapon for D&D 5e, the sling staff. So before we make this new weapon, let's see what a regular sling can give us. It costs 1 silver piece, has negligible weight. The ammunition property, a short range of 30 feet and a long range of 120 feet. It does 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Ammunition comes in batches of 20, weighs 1.5 pounds, and costs 4 copper. It's important to remember that this weapon does bludgeoning damage, which is pretty good against skeletons. But objectively, this is a worse weapon than the equivalent short bow. Outside of a druid using it, it just lacks the range options. Why would you choose to use this? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First is price. It's so cheap and light. There isn't any reason to not have one on your person, even if you have a bow. If you have the correct tool set, you could probably craft a sling for every member of your party and yourself in a single day. Also, if you are in a survival scenario where your DM is having you track your ammunition, having a sling around could be a significant boon for less threatening foes, or even just hunting. Pro tip. Remember that taking 1 minute to scour the battlefield will net you half of your expended ammunition, whether arrows or sling bullets or whatever. So let's make ourselves a sling staff. Just so you know, WotC has created their own version of the sling staff for 5e recently. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. This one that we're going to talk about was published about a year ago. So if it sucks, go check out their version in Dragonlance. Okay, let's move on. A sling staff is just a sling attached to a long stick that allows for more leverage when launching the projectile. So it should have more range and it should hit harder. Oddly enough, we're not going to look at the sling part of this weapon yet, but the quarterstaff. This will be our guide. It has a damage of 1d6 bludgeoning, so we'll keep that, and has a weight of 4 pounds. Since a sling's weight is negligible, we'll just make the weapon in total 4 pounds. This is what is sometimes referred to as a switch weapon, which can be used for both ranged and melee. And of course, it will have the ammunition property. Now, the range is where things get complicated. We don't want the range to equal or exceed the counterparts of the short bow or light crossbow, but we want it to be superior to the regular sling. So I say, let's cut the difference. Make the range 50 feet. Long range is usually short range increased by a factor of 4, which is 200 feet. In contrast, thrown weapons calculate their range by multiplying the short range by a factor of 3. I know it's a lot of math I just threw at you, but you'll be fine. You're smart. So should it be a martial weapon or a simple weapon? If we made it a martial weapon, it would be objectively a little worse than longbows and swords. But that's okay. The sling is in a similar situation with its fellow simple weapons. So we should make it super cheap, like 3 silver apiece. That's the combined price of a sling and quarterstaff put together. Or we could make it a simple weapon and give it a less affordable price so we don't step on the sling's toes. Let's say 5 gold. That's the upper end for what most simple melee weapons cost, but it's cheaper than a crossbow or a short bow. Yeah, I think this is the best option. Keeps the weapon available to most characters, which I think is the heart of the sling in general. So there we have it. That's the sling staff. Costs 5 gold, weighs 4 pounds, does 1d6 bludgeoning damage for ranged and melee, has the ammunition property, range of short range, 50 feet, long range, 200. Yeah, that wasn't so hard, was it? Tell me what you think of this weapon in the comments. How does it compare to WotC's version? I haven't seen it yet. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, smash the like button. If there are any other weapons you want to see me make a video about, well, tell me down below. Until next time, join me again in my parlor.